All right. So Jeff, tell me a little bit more about the writing process. How did you decide to write a book, and what steps did you take once you had made that decision?
Yeah, so I always wanted to write a book. I didn't know if I'd be able to, but I'll be honest. 10 years of blogging, I think, got that muscle memory in for how to write a little bit. So that helped a ton. What I did with the first book was I had the idea of what it would be about. I wrote a very high level outline, and then I wrote 20 or 30 pages to get the feel of what I was going to write. Once I felt good about all that, and again, bounced it off some people, I committed to, for a 30-day period, writing every morning. And what I said was, it was actually July. I said, okay, I'm going to write for at least 15 minutes. And if I just am not feeling it, fine, I'll stop. I'll pick it up the next morning. But if I'm feeling it, keep rolling. And there were definitely days when 15 minutes, I couldn't wait for them to be up. And I said, all right, I just didn't feel it, but I forced a few pages out. And then there were some days, literally, I went for 3 or 4 hours. And at the end of 30 days, I had a 50,000 word first draft of the book.
Wow.
So that process of like preparing, but then once you start, I think you just, at least for me, I just got to go all in. And that's what I'm about to do with this next book is like, I'm really about to turn the key and say, okay, every day.
You need to begin to begin.
That's right. You just got to get started. Yeah.
I've heard the old saying that, how many of you have dreamed of writing a book? And half the people in the room raise their hands. And then somebody says, how many of you have written the first chapter? And nobody raises their hands.
Yeah.
And it takes writing the first chapter before you can have a second, third, and fourth, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So what tips would you give to an aspiring book writer? Is it the discipline of doing it every single day, or is it writing an outline, or is it going to seek a publisher? I mean, if somebody wants to jump in and begin, how would they do that?
Yeah. So my advice would be pick a topic that you're very passionate about, and bonus if you're very experienced in, but you have to be passionate about it. When I first started writing the 5-day turnaround, I actually wasn't sure if I'd write a leadership book or a mobile marketing book. And this was, 4 years ago. And I don't know, I wrestled really hard because I thought, man, one would help, Dragon Army more than the other maybe. But I just wasn't as passionate about mobile as I was about leadership. That's been a pure passion for me. So I think number one, find a passion. I think number two, definitely develop some sort of outline or thesis. What is this going to be about? My advice to people is always prove that you like writing, prove that you can write, so spin up a Medium blog and every other day write something about the topic you're interested in. And if after 2 weeks you can't do it anymore, it's probably not the medium that you should choose. You got to begin writing and seeing if that's something that you enjoy. And then I would say lastly, don't worry about a publisher.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a publisher. It's so hard. And even if you do, they don't help you that much. Unless your book takes off, they don't help so much. So, and it's going to be a barrier. It was a barrier for me for, again, 6 to 9 months that stopped me from writing my book.
You spent a lot of time treading water, thinking about who's going to publish it when, instead of just writing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So who else do you need on your team? Doesn't have to be the people, but you probably need somebody that's willing to read what you've written and give you some advice or editing. Do you need a mentor? Do you need a coach? Who else is part of the team when you want to write a book?
So Stephen King's book on writing is a fantastic book for an aspiring writer. In that he says that when you write your book, you should be writing for one person. He writes for his wife Tabitha. My wife's definitely the first person that reads my book. And so I think about maybe how would she react to this and how would she think about it? So I think having people in your corner that are going to want to read it and take a look at it, you really need an editor. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Yep. You can maybe get your cover design done by someone on Fiverr. I know people who do that spend $5, $10, $15, $20 and get a cover, but you need an editor. So that's the thing that's been the most helpful for me. And that's where Rochelle and Watchword Brand, which became part of Dragon Army last year, they've been incredible to work with on that. aside from that, it's not that hard to put a book up on Amazon. I mean, you just got to write the thing.
Mm-hmm. And then if one wanted to take it from a Amazon only book and actually print hard copies, what does that process look like?
Yeah. So with Amazon, you can do Amazon Kindle and paperback, and for essentially free. There's like a, I don't know, $65 fee or something to put it up there. And then, if you sell your book for $15, maybe Amazon makes 14. I mean, they take a lot of the profit, but they'll print the book on demand. So you don't have to be printing books. We found a local printer because I was doing book talks and we wanted to send them to clients. And so you can source a local printer to print your own batch, but you can really get spun up pretty quickly on Amazon with no costs. There's also, we worked with a company called Ingram Spark, which is allows you to publish into Barnes and Noble and different places. I'm not getting any action there. My book's there, but it's not doing anything. I think Amazon's just the place to go.
Yeah. And generally, what's the cost of, on a per book basis, when you get them printed locally? It costs $13 a book and you sell them for $15 and you make $2, or how does that even work economically?
It really depends on the bulk, how big you buy. So when we do like an 800 book purchase, I want to say the books can be $6 or $7 a book, something like that.
And you could sell it for maybe 15. And
yeah, I mean, the trick there is having a store, if you will, and then, so we definitely didn't buy them and then sell them online. Then we have to, ship them and all that stuff. But at book fairs or book talks, you can give them out and sell them in bulk there. So I think you charge $15 or something like that.
And I know that the overall goal here may not be make a ton of profit off of selling books. I'm just curious, when one wants to, like, if you decided that was important to you to have physical books to be able to hand out for a book talk or sell to, or something like that, what does that even look like? And so I appreciate that.
And I think the other thing I would say is like, and again, this comes from Stephen King, but I've found it to be true. If you want to write a book or you want to be a writer, you need to be doing two things. You need to be reading and you need to be writing.
Mm-hmm.
And you just need to do both of those things. Reading makes you a better writer, and writing actually gets the thing written. So that commitment to writing, I think, is the most critical component. Mm-hmm. Again, if you start doing it and you hate it, it's like, well, then maybe your dream isn't to write a book.
So the first thing one could do, though, is read Stephen King's book on writing would be a good place to get started to think about that process.
So. Yeah, it's a wonderfully written book anyway, and it's his life story, which is really
What's it called again?
On Writing. It's literally called On Writing. But in it, he tells all his tips for how to write a book. It's fantastic, especially for fiction writers, which I'm sort of a fiction writer because my business books are written as a story. So like he talks about dialogue. And, one of the things I learned early is he said, just he said, she said. Don't be like, he exclaimed and she shouted, that what you're writing should be telling that. Tips like that where you're like, oh, yeah, okay. It's a crutch to go, she shouted.
Right.
Be able to convey that in what she said than having to put it in the
Absolutely. It's Sally because of the way she said it or something like that.
Exactly, right.
So that's what, when it comes to Will and Charles and Matt and all the characters in your books, who's speaking based on the context.
Yeah, and how excitedly they're talking or something. But at first it felt weird. I'm like, I'm constantly writing he said, she said, or whatever, but that he's like, get that out of the way. Don't let that be part of the book. They're reading the dialogue, get to the next line. So
great. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit more about your writing process. And if somebody is an aspiring writer, how they can jump in and get started.
Yeah. But before we go, if you were going to write a book, let's say you were going to write an autobiography, what would it be called?
The Evolution of a Matchmaker.
Oh, nice.
Or something like that. It would be certainly about matchmaking because my passion is connecting people together. And I get a spark of joy when I can connect two people that never met with each other and they hit it off in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so that I've sort of made that my life's work. And that would be something I'm both passionate about and know a lot about.
Chances are that you'll write it.
I think I will. You've inspired me. Thank you, Jeff.
I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff.